Hello and welcome to the DHL Plugin series, where we bring industry experts together to discuss current technology trends and its impact on the future of logistics. Today, we will be talking about next generation wireless, a highly relevant trend on the DHL's logistics trend radar, and diving into autonomous vehicles and 5G connectivity. As you can tell, I am not at our Asia Pacific Innovation Center today, but we are actually streaming live from the newly launched Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab, Southeast Asia's first industry lab platform for smart city solution development in Singapore. We will tell you more about the lab later and how DHL, as the innovation leader in the logistics industry, is strengthening its ecosystem in the Asia Pacific. But first, please allow me to introduce our panel of experts for today. Just next to me is Justin Baird, who is our Head of Innovation for DHL Asia Pacific. Hello, Justin.
How are you?
Next up, we have Dilip Kumar, who is the co-founder of Movita. He's a high-tech. It is a high-tech startup specializing in providing vehicle-agnostic driverless software solutions for the urban environment. Next to him is Benjamin Tan, who is the Chief Technology Officer for TPG, a telecom operator in Singapore with the newest mobile network. Yes, hi Benjamin. Hi. And last but not least, we have Alvin Tan, who is the Chief Customer Consumer Officer at CapitaLand, one of Asia's largest diversified real estate groups, and who initiated this whole Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab. This lab is supported by Infocom Media Development Authority and Enterprise Singapore. So now that we have heard and seen from our audience, we would like to hear from you, our dear audience, right? So we have prepared a short web poll. So if you can open up your browser right now on your mobile phones or on your computers, whichever is easiest, kindly type in menti.com, menti.com, and enter the code 7043796. It is also on the screen right now, so if you're looking at the screen, just kindly enter menti.com and enter the code 7043796. We have a series of questions for you. First one is, where are you currently located? So you can see the Menti code as well as in the chat. Thank you so much for that. Let's see, where is everyone located today? Where is everyone dialing in from? Wow, we have someone from the UK. Well, that's a good morning, right? Or that's quite early for you? Early morning. So I think some people are just signing in right now. I see some responses from Singapore, of course. Welcome. On the back, I think it's taking the time to load, but we also have guys from Malaysia, from Thailand, all across Southeast Asia. Very good. So let's just move on to the next question right now. The next question is, which industry are you in? So we have a couple of industries right there, and these actually form up our sectors in CSI. So it'll be good to, so a lot of people from auto and mobility. Wow, everyone's coming in from everywhere. And finally, let's just move on to the last and most important question, I think, of this poll, right? So the next question is, which topic are you most interested to find out about today? Is it next generation wireless? Is it 5G connectivity? Is it autonomous vehicles? Or is it open innovation? I see a couple of votes for open innovation. Autonomous vehicles is also there. 5G. Okay, we're going to close the polls in about 10 seconds, right? So last chance to get your votes in. Currently, open innovation is in the lead, followed by 5G connectivity. Autonomous is also doing not too bad, but I guess, Justin, you have your work cut out to actually explain what is next-gen wireless. So great. Thank you so much. No pressure there. And I see we've ended the polls with open innovation being one of the topics that our audience are most interested about. So I'm sure that there are going to be quite a lot of tough questions coming your way, Alwin. Thank you so much, audience, for taking the time to answer those questions. So let us kickstart this webinar now with a video that I'm sure you will find very informative, and it will actually set the scene for our panel discussion later. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this video.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Justin Baird, and I'm the Head of Innovation for DHL in Asia Pacific. We're here today to talk about next-generation wireless in logistics, to provide a perspective on the evolution of wireless networks, and also the future of the Internet of Things, IoT for short. Today, in the limited time we have available together during this webinar, we'll go on a journey exploring some of the interesting technologies that are emerging today. For example, I'm now riding in a fully autonomous self-driving vehicle. As they say, the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. So we will take a peek into some of those interesting areas where the future of logistics is currently evolving. Wireless technologies have indeed changed the world. For many people, it's hard to imagine life without wireless access to the internet. It didn't take a long time for wireless connectivity to become ubiquitous. The first 3G mobile phones were introduced in 2002, the iPhone in 2007, and now in 2020, 5G networks are being rolled out, delivering nearly incomprehensible data rates with very low latency. 5G shows a data rate that is over 50 times faster than what is generally available today. So what does this mean for us? Well, next-generation wireless technologies will be transformational in our industry, enabling total visibility, large-scale autonomy, and predictability for supply chains. The fully connected future of logistics greatly improves the availability of every kind of supply chain data. These technologies include 5G, but also encompass much more. Short-range technologies enable wearables and bionic enhancement. Local area networks allow for precision robotics management and much more. Wide area networks create opportunities for smart roads and autonomous transportation. All the way through to satellite networks enabling visibility of ocean freight and global real-time connectivity. Next-generation wireless technologies hold great promise for the logistics sector. They will help companies address long-standing challenges, such as poor end-to-end visibility across networks. They will play a critical role in the sector's efforts to improve efficiency through greater automation of both planning and execution. They could even enable the creation of entirely new processes, services, and business models. Enjoy the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dilip. I am the co-founder of Movita. We are a high-tech local startup providing vehicle-agnostic driverless software solution for the urban environment. We are confident that we will build driverless software solution that will transform first and last mile urban mobility, especially how people, goods move around in the city in next 3 to 5 years' time. We are developing industry-leading component-based solution which turns certain vehicles into autonomous vehicles. Our software solution have been used in different applications such as first and last mile transportation, logistic transportation, agriculture and utility solution in UK, Singapore, Malaysia, India, China, across Asia Pacific. Our driverless software solution focuses on 3 areas: mapping and localization. It's a 3D LiDAR-based mapping and localization solution that provides precise positioning to ensure safe navigation of vehicles. Perception is a fusion of camera, radar, and LiDAR to perceive and analyze of environment such as detection of static and dynamic obstacles, classification, position estimation, and intention prediction. The navigation and intelligent behavior, it provides human-like driving behavior capability in urban environment. Our vision is to change how people will move around by building a cost-effective, fully autonomous and internet-enabled vehicle platform. By design, AVs will not rely on mobile networks such as 5G for core functionality, but most utilize multiple technology to meet performance and safety design objectives. Each AV will be generating more than 1 terabyte of vehicles and sensor data to the cloud each month, and this data can be used for various purposes such as safety, data analytics, and infotainment. For example, some safety use cases include sharing the vehicle intent between other vehicles via 5G and getting traffic infos in non-line of sight situation. Another example would be using 5G for teleoperating of vehicles. We have conducted successful trials in several countries and look forward to exploring it more in Singapore soon.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Tan and I'm the Chief Technology Officer at TPG Telecom. TPG entered the Singapore telecommunications market after having built the fourth and newest mobile network in Singapore. TPG currently has well over 99% island-wide outdoor coverage with a pure 4G network. We have also recently secured a 5G millimeter wave license and aim to repurpose our existing 4G spectrum, leveraging dynamic spectrum sharing technology to roll out a nationwide 5G network in the coming months. A particularly unique use case for 5G is the transmission of high-definition, high frame rate video from moving vehicles. These could be manned or autonomous cars and buses, or drones for facility inspections, or even maybe inventory management. We are not far off from having a 5G-enabled autonomous vehicle delivering your packages while allowing a live video feed of its location streamed to you on demand right to your 5G-enabled mobile phone anywhere you are. The ability to carry large bandwidth across geographical boundaries of a mobile cell is what really sets 5G apart from any other technology previously available. A lot of today's applications can run very satisfactorily on existing 4G or Wi-Fi networks. It would likely actually be more cost efficient to have them on these older technologies. The full 5G portfolio of driving efficiency and opportunities for the logistics industry will be realized once key partners come together in open collaboration to explore the convergence with other technologies such as Internet of Things, data analytics, and autonomous transportation.
Hello, my name is Elvin. I'm the Chief Customer Solutions Officer at CapitaLand. I'm speaking to you from our new 5G-enabled Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab in Singapore, where we bring together partners to discover, develop, demonstrate, and deploy innovations in real-world environments. This Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab, powered by the latest technologies and 5G connectivity, is set to benefit some 200 companies over the next 3 years. The Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab will function as a resource integrator of various ecosystem players, end users, technology startups, system integrators, and global corporate enterprises across the industry verticals of intelligent estates, smart mobility, sustainability, urban agriculture, advanced manufacturing, and digital health. We are already implementing last-mile connectivity trials at our lab using autonomous vehicles, as well as exploring facade inspection drone views as a result of open collaboration amongst our partners, and are excited to develop more projects to build the future of logistics together.
Hi again, and I hope you've been taking notes during that video because we are opening up our Q&A right now. So please feel free to type in your questions for our panel in the Q&A window on your Zoom platform. So while the questions come in, right, let's chat first with Dilip from Movita. Hi Dilip, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, welcome. Can we just put your mic a little bit closer?
Good morning,
yes.
good morning. So sorry. Yeah.
Welcome to the Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
So just I think first question is how soon do you think we will see autonomous vehicles on the roads?
It's a good question. The widespread deployment of autonomous vehicle will not be so soon as what actually many experts predicted. Maybe a decade long from now, even a longer. However, I mean the deployment will start in small scale, controlled environment, followed by selected areas and countrywide. Yes, that we are expecting. Yeah. So if you ask me, I think it's still 10 years. We need to wait for that. Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. But I think if you do want to try sitting on an AV, where can we try that in Singapore?
You can come to Movita anytime. Yeah, we can bring you around Ngee Ann Poly, as well as we have planned to do some trials in Singapore. Yes, anytime. Yeah, maybe the first to start with is Ngee Ann Poly.
So in Ngee Ann Poly, that's where you are based, right? That's where the testing and everything goes on.
Yes, yes.
And right now, but why Ngee Ann Poly?
The reason behind is that Nanyang Poly has the good road infrastructure. In fact, it actually covers almost like 70% of like road structures that actually have in Singapore. So it's good for us to test our autonomous vehicle capabilities. Like for example, narrow road, left turn, right turn, slope, downhill, and mixed traffic, and so on. So yeah.
So it's actually you're testing out the technology in this controlled environment.
Yes, yeah, the controlled environment as well as mixed traffic environment. Thank you.
Maybe you can elaborate more on what are some of the challenges to developing and deploying AV out in the mass.
There are still many challenges there. I would like to share those three main challenges. The first one is the technology itself. Technology includes sensors and AI or machine learning. Sensors are not ready for all kind of weather condition at the moment. And AI technology, right, we can't actually train all kind of driving scenarios to actually AI system. And also there are no particular guidelines or standards for developing sensors, even training and testing or validating our AI system. So these are the technical challenges, and others challenges include regulation and liability. The regulation is that current framework for operationalized autonomous vehicle are still evolving. And in fact, different countries are actually using different kind of their own guidelines. And for that, actually, it's quite challenging for a vehicle developed in a particular country to actually test and actually drive in different countries. And in terms of liability, we can say that if accident happens, right, who will be responsible for that? So either owner of the vehicle or the manufacturer. So there are still gray areas we need to solve. The last one is the public acceptance. I think it's very hard to actually convince public that AV are safe and reliable, and we have to actually go out and do many trials to actually involve them from the beginning that actually AV is much safer than human driving. And yeah, so these are the, I believe these are the few challenges we need to solve before putting autonomous vehicle on the road safely. Yeah.
Well, Justin, I guess you've been on an AV as we saw from the video. How was that experience?
Yeah, it was great. I actually have I mean, maybe it's just because I'm a technology advocate, but I have no problem thinking about being in an autonomous vehicle. And yeah, the experience is really amazing. So especially with the view, like I think a lot of times, especially for the public, for them to understand how the technology works, and you have the screen in the view where you can see all the things that it's detecting, and what you realize is, oh, it's detecting behind you as well. And when you realize it actually has no blind spots, you start to, as I think an end user, you start to realize, oh, actually, this is like as if I had 3 or 4 heads and I was able to look in every direction at the same time, right? So I think, you start really understanding the technology and seeing how advanced it is. I think it is also interesting, the one you're talking about with the liability, because I think that was one of the issues with car insurance companies, for example. If you don't know how the technology is making a decision, then how do you know who might be at fault? And so I think that's a big part of the technology as well, is actually having that kind of logging capability, but then also being able to show the way that those decisions were made. So yeah, it was a very exciting experience. Yeah, and thank you again for making it happen.
So if anybody wants to actually try out, sitting on an AV, please feel free to go down to Nanyang Poly and contact Dilip here from Movita. I think that that's definitely, I speak for everyone to say that the experience is definitely quite mind-blowing in terms of technology, to see the steering wheel move by itself and to take its corners. So I think we actually saw a different, at the end of your presentation just now, we saw teleoperation. Can you just explain what does that actually entails? Because it looked like someone was driving a car in a video game or something like that.
That was one of our 5G AV trials in Malaysia, whereby actually there was a teleoperator sitting at one office around like 3 kilometers away from the autonomous vehicle. There was a 5G kind of like network was set up. So the operator was actually trying to control a vehicle which is about 3 kilometers away from the control room, and it just tried to navigate a vehicle around like 1 kilometer kind of distance from the remote control, using the 5G kind of network.
So the operator was in another room, and this was 3 kilometers away from the AV itself. And then you guys connected that using 5G technology.
Yes.
Wow. And how far did the AV manage to go?
Of course, there are some limitation actually we face. Of course, I mean, as actually time actually, comes, right? I mean, we will see the improvement on the technology itself also and connectivity itself. Yes, during that time we face some limitation, but yes, we're able to operate in kind of like straight kind of road, and the speed was about 5 kilometers per hour, that kind of range. Having said so, right? I mean, it was a kind of quick setup, and of course, I mean, we can do better probably in Singapore, and early next year.
Early next year.
Yeah, we will be.
Wow. Okay. Early next year, so we will expect to see some trials of teleoperation in Singapore early next year.
More than probably teleoperation. V2X communication and so on.
Can you elaborate more? What else besides teleoperation can we actually see these convergence of technologies?
Okay. At this moment, right? The limitation, the application what we actually did trial in Malaysia was very limited. For in Singapore case, we want to explore the capabilities of V2X. It could be V2V, V2 infrastructure, B2P, and also other kind of actually scenarios where we actually like to see how these two technology can be actually used to actually make autonomous vehicles safer. That's actually planned basically to showcase connectivity and autonomous vehicle use case scenarios.
Okay, good. We have a question from the audience. Is the system configured for certain situations? For example, giving way to buses exiting the bays, or more to local mindset? So is the AI smart enough to attune to different driving habits for different countries? For example, I don't know if this is a Singapore example, but we have to speed up to close the gaps during the bus bays. So is the AI able to do that? Or is the system able to do that?
Thanks for the question. Definitely the vehicle is able to actually maneuver itself in different kind of situation. The scenarios you have actually asked. However, I mean, there are still we need to do many tests in order to make sure that nothing will actually go wrong when actually deploy on public roads. So if you ask me at this moment as a test trial, we can do all the kind of actually scenarios you mentioned.
Okay, so you can tailor it to the different driving habits of the different countries. Okay, so we have another question here, and I think this is picking up on your 10 years. So you said 10 years we will see AV, we will see AV on the roads. But we have a question here. So what sort of road markings, or what are the infrastructures that is needed to affect the AV? To affect the AV development, is it a tech, is it the vehicle, or is it external factors?
This is a very good question. By design, the autonomous vehicle will able to drive itself in different kind of condition. However, if there are actually infrastructure are actually available to actually improve the safety of autonomous vehicle, that will be, great. So definitely. Because in order for autonomous vehicle to perceive the environment, autonomous vehicle will be using infrastructure information. Like for example, this is some example is that age of the road, the road marking, and maybe some infrastructure on the left and right hand side. Yes, so this kind of infrastructure need to be actually maintained. Or maybe, in fact, we need to add some smart infrastructure, such as smart light, maybe smart road signage, so which can actually provide kind of telematic kind of information to autonomous vehicle or connected vehicles. So actually, collectively they make decision what is happening around the surrounding. So actually, there will be some safe navigation of such kind of vehicles. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So, okay, we have, I think, one last good question is, how can technology predict what the car or pedestrian will do? So I think this will be a very good segue to talk about, some 5G use cases. So just to answer that question, what kind of technologies can we use? What is it, AI or 5G, to then, predict if it's two AV cars, and how does it predict the traffic as well as the flow of pedestrians?
At this moment, right, we are using camera-based system to actually predict the pedestrian intention. It can be depending on the behavior of the person, actually where actually the person is going, or direction, or the behavior of the person itself. So based on that one, the vehicle will able to actually kind of predict what the person might be doing in maybe next 3 to 5 seconds. Based on that one, the actually autonomous vehicle will actually plan its behavior and execute to make sure that it will not hit the pedestrian. Yeah. Yeah.
So in the case where we have two AVs going side by side, right, and there's a pedestrian walking here, is there a way, or what is the bridging technology that these two AVs can talk to each other?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, yes. Although autonomous vehicles are designed to be drive itself, but however there are blind spots, and sometimes it's better to have like infrastructure or other vehicles telling there is some obstacle in front where actually the host actually vehicle might not be able to see. So that kind of scenarios, yeah, V2V or V2I kind of information to make sure that the pedestrian is safe. That will be good. Yeah. Yeah. So the answer is, yeah, connectivity, V2X kind of information will definitely help in future to actually move autonomous vehicles safely.
And I guess just besides the communication, you actually need a bridge, right? And that's where 5G actually comes in to connect all these different vehicles together. So just moving now to Benjamin, right? So as a consumer, right? So as a consumer and as someone who's very fortunate to be in Singapore, where we have Wi-Fi, we have 4G and everything, what is the difference between 4G and 5G?
I think the answer to that question really depends on what you are already using your 4G to do, right? It depends on your application. Certainly, the things that we always hear about in relation to 5G is the increased bandwidth, the lower latency, the higher reliability, and just the greater density of the usage. Instead of having thousands of devices, talking about millions of devices in a square kilometer, right? That's the type of the usual canned response you will get. And certainly those are the characteristics of 5G. However, in relation to your own application, that means very different things. For example, if you're already using 4G today to perhaps get some images from a remote camera, I would venture to assume that there will be people in our audience, I hope, who have some application like that. You might have a remote camera with a 4G modem, a LTE module, but you will likely, I think, be getting something in the order of 1 image per 5 seconds, 1 image per minute. Maybe you're even trying to conserve what you pay to the mobile operator. Of course, I don't like that. I would like you to use more. And maybe you just take 1 image every 5 minutes. Would you not like to be able to see real time in 4K at 120 frames per second? At that site? Well, maybe that's of no use to you, but still, broadcast quality, 1080p, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second. That is the real difference to you. If you're trying to control a piece of equipment that is remote from you, whether it's in a locality like a port or a yard, a factory type setup, then again, what is the latency that you can reasonably tolerate in the interest of safety But even apart from safety, not that safety isn't important, but it just to make the triggers work, right? How much lead time do you have from the time your sensor detects that it's supposed to move left, move right, drop something, pick something up, to the time that you can actually actuate that? Is 30 milliseconds too long? Would you not need it to be 1 millisecond? Or doesn't that make a difference? If it makes a difference to you, 5G has the answer. If it doesn't, perhaps 4G already works for you. So there are the usual characteristics, which I'll reiterate because that's the thing, that's the canned answer. Higher speed, lower latency, higher reliability, and greater density. That's the canned answer. But what it actually means really depends what you want to do with it. And that's why I'm particularly excited about this co-innovation lab, because innovation is what draws all the various aspects together and really brings out the true use case of the technology, which in isolation may or may not mean very much to individuals.
So do you see it as a evolution, right? So we had our 2G moving to 3G to 4G. When do you see 5G being the norm? Is there a time frame for that?
Well, I sometimes hesitate to make these predictions because there's so many different factors, right? But rather than actually give you a time, if I can attempt to evade the answer a little bit, I think it will be when the price that consumers deem acceptable for a phone includes 5G modem in that price point. So whatever price point you deem to be the current consumer acceptable number today, when 5G is available in handsets at that price point, that's when we will see it. Because it's always the outliers who will go buy your $3,000 phone that has 5G. Nothing wrong with that, but it won't be widespread, right? Yeah.
So for our audience out there who are, these are more of a B2B kind of a scenario, what are some of the infrastructures or the cost that is needed to actually implement this 5G in a warehouse, for example? And also, can you talk a little bit more of the cost and benefit, right? Because I know when you said in the video that, for 4G and for Wi-Fi, they might actually be more cost efficient. So what is needed?
So while I'm a technology person, I'd like to think of myself as a commercially practical person as well. And there are a lot of applications where if you are confined to a limited space, perhaps the area of a warehouse, a Wi-Fi 6 solution, an enterprise Wi-Fi 6 type solution today, or even a LoRaWAN type solution if you don't need that much bandwidth, might well serve your needs for a far less, for far smaller investment than any kind of a private 5G, private slice, MEC type deployment, which I will openly say TPG would be very happy to work with you on, but may or may not be the most cost-effective thing to do in relation to what you want to achieve. If, however, your target use case domain, physical geographical area, goes typically what we say beyond the boundaries of one cell site into the multiple kilometers, right? Then it becomes interesting. Because not that enterprise Wi-Fi cannot do that entirely, but then the cost-benefit dynamics totally change, right? So a shipyard kind of thing would be a more attuned example to where the true benefits of 5G come about, as opposed to a pure warehouse space. That would be my short answer. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So now we're just going to switch a bit of track. So we talked a bit about AV, we talked a bit about 5G, and I see, please keep the questions coming in. I see quite a few ones for you, Justin. But now let's talk about next-gen wireless, right? So it is a trend on the logistics trend radar. Maybe you can just share with us what the trend radar is, and then where exactly on the radar, next-gen wireless.
Sure, absolutely, yeah, thank you. And yes, thank you again for everyone participating in this. It's been quite interesting and intriguing to be looking at all these technologies. But I think when we think about next-gen wireless, there's a lot of different aspects to next-gen wireless. You know, we're talking about some technologies with 5G and other things, but in reality, there's a lot of technologies that are combining to create this type of next generation of wireless capability. I mean, if we think about those different technologies, they're also coming up in kind of the trends that we see on the DHL trend radar. So what we've just recently done is launched the next generation of DHL's trend radar. So that's the 5th edition. And it's something that we do a very large research report over the course of almost 24 months. So literally we see this coming every 2 years or so. And as part of that, we look at all the trends that are actually affecting the industry as we know it, but also those trends are affecting the world, you know, as we know it as well. I mean, you can't go almost anywhere without bumping into technology these days. And so when we think of the type of technologies that are a part of that, there's everything from what's making things happen from a wearables perspective, so you know what we're doing with Bluetooth and kind of the very short range types of technology, all the way through to what we're talking about with 5G. And yeah, as we were mentioning before, you know, when you get past the confines of, let's say, a warehouse, or you move into shipyard, or you move into much larger kind of areas, then those type of technologies move all the way through to even satellite networks. So I think, as you mentioned, you know, LoRaWAN is a technology that could connect many different sites, you know, going up to, you know, 50 kilometers or more, but then you actually get into satellite technology as well. So we have seen a lot of interesting trends coming onto the radar this year. Speaking of satellites, we even have things like space logistics happening now. So there's all different types of trends that are impacting the world around us. Yeah.
Is the satellite also AV? Is it, you know, is it automated now at the moment?
I think maybe some aspects of it. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe let's just talk about next gen wireless. So we've talked about the whole radar. Then let's just dive into next gen wireless, right? So is next gen wireless, you know, just 5G? Is it just is it a Wi-Fi, or what is it all about?
It's so many different combinations of technologies. Yeah. So it's not just about a particular technology, and it's the integration of all those technologies as well. So when we think about next gen wireless, we think maybe we talk about 5G because we think of 5G as being high bandwidth and low latency. Those are some of the benefits that could come from it. But again, this idea of using, let's say, local area network technologies, using smaller range technologies, all of these things are of benefit. But you know, I think it's also about the application, and that's why there's so many different solutions. We have technologies even that are providing us with real-time data on shipments that are overseas, right? And that's using satellites to make some of those connections happen. But in that scenario, the real-time factor of it is not as important as actually the data capture. So, you know, sometimes you don't need the low latency. Mm-hmm. It might be more about capturing data over time. So, you know, each one of these is a unique solution. So we can't kind of necessarily say that there's one technology that actually solves all the problems. It's more about finding the right technology for the right solutions. As part of DHL, we have this smart sensor solution set, and that smart sensor solution set is, I mean, there's dozens upon dozens of different technologies, and we look at each one of the kind of use cases and combine those as required to find the right solution.
So then, in terms of a practical use case, right? Can you give some examples where, you know, these next gen wireless actually are now being used in use cases?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, for sure. I mean, as we've seen with autonomous vehicles, but when we look at autonomy in warehouses, for example, we've got robotic automation. So lots of those things are using all different types of wireless technologies to communicate. As an example, we may have like a sorting arm, like a robot sorting arm, but how is it getting the information to make the sort happen when boxes are flying towards it? So there are things happening where there are sensors ahead of where the robot is. That's then a wireless communication to tell the robot what's the next step to do, those type of things. So those are the type of things that you see implemented in warehouses. But then this even goes to, we have even bionic enhancement, right? So bionic enhancement uses wireless technologies to be able to actually understand what's happening in the world around, and then use that information to help someone in terms of an exoskeleton, for example, helping with lifting. So really the applications are kind of infinite. Yeah.
Okay. So I think maybe we move back to use cases now. So there's a lot of questions about logistics use cases. So Dilip, maybe you can share a little bit, because we saw in the clip where you had the farming example, the agriculture example. Is there something similar for logistics or last mile for that matter?
The application might be different. The base technology is similar, right? For logistic area or application, right? Most likely, like for example, courier guy. Actually, he picks all his stuff from warehouse and delivers to actually, let's say, urban environment. Yeah. Then and actually he has to drive through the many traffics, and he has to find a car parks. And after that, he has to actually deliver items to different actually offices. Yeah. So if you see these whole scenarios, right? If we have to implement autonomous logistic, it will definitely actually help in the whole process. For example, for driving through urban environment, where actually the autonomous vehicle itself actually drives, so where this courier guy actually can plan some of the things that he wants to actually deliver, or he can arrange his parcel or items to actually different offices, and instead of finding parking slots in a building, he just drop at some lobby, and he just actually go, and actually he just later on actually pick the vehicle by calling his app. Yeah. So of course, I mean those sounds like very futuristic, but if actually or what I want to say is that technologies are there already. So but we need to actually address some of the barriers actually earlier I mentioned, right? If all things actually we put together, yeah, the future logistic scenario will be look something what I shared just now. Yeah.
So I have a very tough question for you here, and I've been trying to think of the easiest way to ask this, but the question is, in terms of commercial use, what is the cost consideration of a driver, especially in Asia Pacific, where labor cost is relatively quite low, and implementing your AV cost is actually will be quite high. What are some of the what is the ROI that you're actually looking at for AV?
Okay, so for these questions, right, actually many AV developers are actually try to actually come up with the right business models. Mm-hmm. But just to give you a very kind of quick answer is that there are always ways to actually make use of resources to earn revenues. So as I mentioned earlier, while actually the vehicle is driving itself, we can actually reassign tasks to a driver to actually do certain things that actually improve in a ways kind of productivity that actually can actually generate different kind of revenues or opportunities. So by general, let's say if you have like 1,000 vehicles and you have 1,000 drivers, and your 1,000 drivers are doing some additional tasks instead of driving, I think revenue stream will be there. So, okay, this is a personal thought, but I mean, might not be the 100% correct, but that's what actually I can share. Yeah.
And what about 5G? Is there any 5G related logistics use cases that you're aware of today? Be it in Asia Pacific or globally. Are there any other 5G use cases in particularly last mile, like you mentioned? I know you talked about drones here. How does 5G and drones, how will that actually tie together?
Well, again, coming back to my initial point, which I hope not to belabor, but because you have an object, a vehicle, a drone in motion across the boundary of a single cell site, 5G will allow you to maintain high bandwidth to that object. So potentially, you can have video streaming from that drone holding your package on its way to you, and see that drone as it sees you and is coming towards you with video streamed from it rather, right? Today, with limited bandwidth of 4G and satellite technology and so on, you can already track the location of the drone. So that's highly uninteresting in relation to what 5G can offer. But today you do not have enough bandwidth on the move from a vehicle, from a drone, from a ship, or just a small coastal vessel to actually dump multiple streams of high bandwidth, high resolution, high frame rate, and therefore high bandwidth video from that moving object. That could be a train, a bus, a bus with multiple cameras on it, or just simply a car. Right?
Okay.
So that's the difference.
That's the difference. All right, thank you, Benjamin. So Justin, this is a question here for you, and I think we can frame it in the next generation wireless trend, sort of a mindset. What other innovation products or what other innovation do you see in this last mile delivery in the next 5 years for next gen wireless?
Yeah, well, I think we actually see a lot of different challenges. I think, like, drones is certainly one area which is worth discussing. Like, we look at the ability to do the kind of last mile delivery even in remote areas. So, for example, drones are something that could be very attractive in that space. And again, I think also what we've seen with Movita is there is the regulation and the kind of government control and these type of things that need to be kind of explored as well. We've seen kind of already opportunities to be able to potentially do real-time kind of delivery just within kind of, let's say, Singapore or to some of the local island areas as well. And if the regulation was in place to make that possible, the technology is actually already in place to be able to do that. So, for example, the batteries and how long the drone can fly, given weight, those type of things, are all just at that kind of threshold now where the cost factor is now becoming more attractive. So we see that type of thing. I think also, we also talk about robots that are able to come into elevators and press the elevator buttons and get to a floor and deliver something. So those things are actually becoming a reality now as well.
The whole smart city, smart nation piece.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's I guess the challenge of maybe we could make a better elevator to allow a robot to come in and wirelessly tell the elevator where to go. But there's also robots that are coming out that now actually have the ability to select a floor, use all the different type of technologies that are necessary, everything from computer vision to be able to identify the numbers through being able to actually press the physical actuators. So all of these things are coming. I think, as we kind of said before, the future is kind of already here. It's just not evenly distributed, and these type of technologies are available and happening. I think also part of last mile, they talk about, even inside autonomous vehicles, you might be able to get a vehicle to your driveway, but how are you going to get the box out of the vehicle to the doorstep or those type of things? And so we also see that happening with robotic solutions coming to fold. So you could see perhaps at some point you might be able to order something online, and a human might not actually touch the box between the warehouse to the delivery to your front door. So, I mean, those are certainly the kind of more futuristic ways that we're looking at these type of things. And, I think it is regulation, government control, and technology. All of these things are the things that are going to either make these things more successful or take more time to deliver. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. So swinging from 5 years, let's talk about now, right? So let's talk about the whole COVID situation. So we know everyone's rushing to produce the COVID vaccine. Someone has to deliver the vaccine. Can you explain what are some challenges of delivery of this vaccine and how some next-gen wireless or some of these technologies can actually help with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think another piece of the next-gen wireless and all the wireless aspects of this is actually monitoring these type of shipments. Right now, basically, the kind of popular ideas for the vaccines that are now coming are going to require very low temperature transport. And that low temperature transport is going to mean that we need to have, let's say, IoT devices that are actually monitoring the temperature and the conditions of these shipments to ensure that the temperature hasn't gone above a certain threshold. So there's already the necessity of having these wireless technologies be a part of that. But we also see, to be able to make this happen, I mean, we've already gone through estimations to have a look at the research behind, well, what would happen if we need to actually deliver a huge number, literally billions of vaccinations around the world. And we're literally talking about over 15,000 flights to be able to make the delivery of all of these vaccinations, and then all of the things that actually go into that process. And so trying to orchestrate something like that is going to require all of the capabilities of these type of next generation wireless devices to be able to ensure that those deliveries are accurate and then also have not exceeded the kind of temperature threshold. So we're preparing for that upcoming need. It's going to be very important.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And hopefully very, very soon. So what I'm hearing from all of our guests panel today is that it is not just the technology, it's not the expertise in technology, but it's really working together to really accelerate these processes. I guess now, Elvin, on to you, right? A property developer here in an innovation lab. Maybe first of all, can you define what is open innovation?
Thanks, Matt. Let me use a long-winded way to explain what open innovation means to us and my own personal experience. I had a fortunate opportunity to live in Germany 20 years ago, and one day I went to the Deutsche Post office, and I wanted to mail something back to Singapore. The question that the person asked me was something that I've never experienced in my life up till then. His question to me was, how long do you want your parcels, how fast do you want your parcels to arrive in Singapore? So I said, what do you mean? I said, we've got different ways, surface mail, DHL, DHL Express and all the different options. So that stuck in my mind, for a long time, but I didn't know what to make of it. So fast forward 18 years later, 2 years back, at that point in time, I was still with Ascender Singbridge before the merger with CapitaLand. And we are now faced with many interesting challenges in our facility management. So the question to us is, do we go the normal way of innovation, whereby we start to study the problems, we look at all the different solutions, and therefore pick one in order to do it and execute that? Or do we relive, what I experienced in Germany 20 years ago and put out to the industries? This is a problem I want to solve. Can you tell me how best you can solve it? Mm-hmm. So that was the first journey for us in open innovation. And that is, how can I, instead of relying on my own capacity to solve the solutions, open up the problems to a larger audience and solicit ideas to see how can I best address that situation. So that's what to us is open innovation. Mm-hmm. And I think this is very important today in the world of digital technologies, digital economy, and you can hear from my fellow panelists here, look at the depth of knowledge and the experience that they have. This is something that real estate companies will never, be able to do in our non-core business. Mm-hmm. But if I want to solve the problems, I want to find the fastest way, the best way, and that's what open innovation is all about. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So maybe can you elaborate a little bit about open innovation, logistics, and I know you have quite a few pillars here, right? So I know logistics will sit under your advanced manufacturing. Can you explain a little bit how you see that happening within the players today? How you see that happening in this lab itself?
Okay, this is where people ask me, what has a real estate company got to do with logistics, right? This is where I want to differ. We look at our business going forward as building smart cities, of which urban logistics, smart logistics, advanced manufacturing are components of. And we envisage a day where many of these technologies, the data especially, will be harmonized and allowing players to build on. So quickly on the logistics, we are already seeing some needs, especially in today's environment where many parts of the logistics value chain is still very manual in nature. For example, stock taking operations. Today, in DHL, you use drones to do stock taking at night. You do many repetitive tasks, labeling, inspection, packaging, sorting. Can those be automated? And how can those be automated using advanced manufacturing? And how will massive amount of data being streamed be addressed using 5G? And even one simple applications that we brought a few logistics companies here to take a look at the solutions that are being implemented in the lab, something that I never thought of. We have here a device called a CPE, where we take wireless signals straight from the access points as functioning like a phone, like a hotspot. But this hotspot leverages on off-the-air 5G technology and then broadcast it as Wi-Fi in a confined space like this. So logistics company came in and said that, look, every year I spend thousands of dollars just to wire up all the different access points within that shop floor. Can I now use a CPE device to broadcast that, achieve the high bandwidth, and remove the cost of rewiring all these things? So it is about this lab creating the opportunities for companies to discover what are the new applications, what are the technologies available. And some of these technologies may not have been designed for that particular industries. But because it is here, it allows people to now see that, hey, why not try this and adapt to my industries and see whether it works. So this is what we move open innovation to add the co-innovation part, where I talk about the scenario just earlier on was a one-to-one relationship where I have a need. I go out to the industries and I look for ideas. But I'm moving towards a many-to-many relationship, whereby not just myself, but Justin, Dilip, and Ben can come together and say, look, all of us have got similar problems in certain areas. So rather than Justin handles find your own solutions, I find my own solutions, can we do so together? Yeah.
And so that this lab itself is 5G enabled, right?
5G enabled.
5G enabled. What other features, of this lab, that technology that we can actually hear a little bit about?
This lab is a nerve center. It is 5G enabled indoor, and it connects to an outdoor 55 hectares of space that TPG has helped us set up a 5G network as well. This is Singapore's largest 5G trial site now. So imagine now, that's why Movita is here with us. They are deploying 5G vehicles on the roads in Science Park and be able to stream the content into this lab for further developments or other partners to work on.
So I guess maybe just as a closing, what are some advice you would give to other technology partners or other traditional MNCs? So how do they start this open innovation journey?
Have an open mind. Believe that we are just a part of the ecosystems or community in a sea of innovation out there. So create opportunities for yourself. Create the trust and empowerment to your colleagues. To say that, look, I don't have all the solutions. Please think about what are the possibilities that can happen. This lab, for example, you introduce it as my brainchild. It is not. That's wrong. It is a brainchild of my team that faces the day-to-day challenges of how do we want to create value for our customers in a systematic way. And therefore, they came to me and said that, look, instead of us doing it on a one-to-one basis, why don't we build a lab and create this platform so that more companies can come, and it relieves my pressure of having to serve them on the one-to-one basis, but they can self-help, they can collaborate each other and build the future together.
Thank you very much, Alvin. So thank you all for your questions. Hopefully, yes, I think we've answered most of the questions. But if not, thank you, Justin, thank you, Dilip, thank you, Benjamin, and thank you once again for sharing your valuable insights with us today. Unfortunately, we just run out of time for this webinar, but we have captured all your questions and we will aim to answer them in future communications. So right now, you will see on your Zoom screen, there should be a poll window that is popping up. I think a great part of open innovation is also about listening to feedback. So, we are actively seeking your feedback to make these sessions better. So please do help us to fill in these short questions. Right? And also just a little short shout out to next week. What's happening next week? On the 24th of November, we have a very special virtual event. Coming to you live streaming from all 3 DHL innovation centers globally, from Trostorf, from Singapore and Chicago. We are more than welcome to join us in our Future of Logistics Masterclass. This is something new that we are trying out. It is an entirely curated experience for yourself. Take this opportunity to dive into our logistics trend radar that we talked about today, into trends that you're interested, like robotics, automation. We have also 5G, we also have AV, AI and big data, right? So these are trends that we talk about on a daily basis, but also represented will be cutting edge trends, right? Like quantum computing as well as space logistics. So we have a top lineup of external industry experts from NASA, from Salesforce, from MIT speaking on these trend topics. So please sign up for this masterclass in the link pasted in the chat right now. Well, thank you again for your time today, and thank you, panel, for really building the future of logistics with us. I look forward to our next engagement, and from all of us here at the DHL Innovation Center and right here at the Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab, Please have a great day ahead. Thank you very much.